New season, new MRO controversy for the AFL. It's not even round one yet, and the inconsistencies of the AFL's match review system have been on full display already. Throughout the pre-season games, there were multiple incidents involving players pushing opponents under the ball and into other players, causing collisions and injuries. As well as that, we saw a tunnelling incident involving Jack Ginnivan, which was ignored completely by the match review officer. Let's start off with the pre-season incidents, which attracted plenty of scrutiny from fans and pundits. The first of which involving Reuben Ginbey and Sam Lawler. You can see in the clip here that Ginbey gives quite a forceful shove to the back of Lawler and sends him colliding into Sandy Brock. As a result of this, Lawler suffered a concussion and a broken jaw in what was a really heart and mouth moment for Richmond fans. Ginbey, however, managed to escape any sanctioning from the MRO. In my opinion, this was an extremely dirty act which absolutely should have copped a suspension, and I think this shows real inconsistencies with how the AFL enforces their rules around rough conduct. The AFL has really cracked down on incidents likely to result in concussion in the last few years, with bumps and dangerous tackles in the firing line. In this case, though, they have turned a blind eye to what is clearly a very dangerous act. Why is there not the same level of crackdown to this completely unnecessary act as there has been recently, with tackles that are far more justifiable as football actions? Ginbey was clearly in no position to ever contest the ball, and he put his opponent in a dangerous position where he could not protect himself, and I believe this absolutely falls under rough conduct, which would make it a reportable offence. This same opinion is held by former umpire Ray Chamberlain, who featured recently on AFL 360.
Reuben, give me the first one.
Yeah, so this one for me, out of the four that we'll watch, is the one that probably is the most egregious in the fact, and I think, it's contributed to by the fact that the velocity of the players. But for me, that there is something that is a free kick that was paid, which is fantastic from our umpire, and that sort of tends to support for umpire system and having a person deep there to adjudicate on those things. But I think we need to report that. I think it falls under rough conduct, and I think it's unnecessary and unreasonable in the circumstances. So I think that's one that the game will be looking at very closely.
Do you think that's currently captured in the rules?
Yeah, I believe it is, yeah.
Unfortunately, the lack of consequences for Ginbey has set a precedent for these kind of incidents, and I feel that we may be seeing a lot more of this throughout the year. Case in point, let's look at the rest of the pre-season. This next incident with James Sicily isn't quite as egregious as the previous one. He looks to be in a position where he could contest the ball before he gives a slight shove to Jordan Croft, which contributes to Lathan Vandermeer copping some friendly fire. This could be argued to be a push in the back free kick, but I don't believe personally that it was an intentional attempt from Sicily to injure his opponent, as he was near the drop zone of the ball. But here's Razor Ray for a more educated take on that one.
So, in my opinion, this one's a little bit different in that obviously the level of force is different, and Sicily is leading up to sort of participate in the contest. Eventually he doesn't. A free kick's warranted here for a push in the back, but I don't think the difference between this one and Reuben is that Reuben's never contesting the football. He has never got any intention, and it's a forceful action, so unnecessary and unreasonable because of the level of force, and then the subsequent outcome we're aware of. This one here could be a cheeky little work him under the ball, get it over the top.
So hands in the back's allowed now, is the other part of all this.
And you're allowed to put your hands in the back.
So momentum forward, their hands were there. I'm with you on that one.
This next one also drew a little bit of a reaction purely because of the outcome of the incident, although I don't think there was anything in this. Curtin and Starcevic make contact at the fall of the ball. There's no push in the back, and Curtin clearly had a legitimate play on the contest. No infringement of any kind here. I only really brought it up due to what happened in the rest of the practice matches. The final incident of this nature took place in the Port v St Kilda game, where Jordan Sweet shoves Mitch Owens into Bergman for no good reason. Owens did have a little bit of momentum going behind him, but it was still extremely reckless from Sweet to push him into another player, especially so since Sweet clearly never had any intention of contesting the ball himself. In my opinion, this one still isn't as blatant as the first Ginbey incident. However, I still believe that this should be a reportable offence, as it is extremely dangerous and completely unnecessary. Again, I think this one shows that the AFL aren't consistent with how they enforce their rules, and I believe they need to crack down on these kinds of pushing incidents before they result in any more serious injuries. And just to get a more informed opinion on the Sweet Owens incident, here's Razor Ray again.
I think this one's the interesting one, Jared, for mine, because the level of force isn't to the level of Reuben's example, but much like Reuben's example, Jordan doesn't in any way, shape or form ever attempt to contest the football. And for me, in these circumstances, that's the anchor that gets my antenna up. So Sicily sort of gets there, it's not particularly forceful, he's going to the contest, there's a level of intention to contest and then he's not there. free kick. The one with Curtin, they just collide, he's going to the contest, no drama, play on, pay the mark. But the other two, you can't debate. They're clearly not contesting the football. And so when a player's interfered with and met in a way that they can't protect themselves and an injury ensues, that's problematic.
Pushing opponents into oncoming traffic is not the only dangerous act that the AFL refuses to properly address and stamp out. In round 19 of the 2024 season, when Brisbane took on Sydney at the Gabba, Eric Hipwood took out his anger on Nick Blakey, tunnelling him in an extremely dangerous act. Blakey was lucky in this situation to only come out with a slightly sore back, as he was very close to landing on his head and potentially sustaining a very serious injury. Hipwood did not give away a free kick in the contest, as there is nothing specifically in the laws of the game to outlaw tunnelling when not in a marking contest. However, the MRO did deem this action to be reportable under rough conduct. Instead of making a statement against this type of action though, Hipwood escaped with only a fine as a result of the AFL's flawed system in which they punish based on the outcome of a situation rather than the action taken by a player. In my opinion, Hipwood should have received a lengthy suspension for this to discourage this kind of action in the future, because fines obviously won't do anything for players. We saw later in the year another tunnelling incident between Riley Thilthorpe and Lockie Jones, although I unfortunately couldn't find the footage for that one. In 2025, tunnelling has reared its ugly head again in the opening round of the season, with Jack Ginnivan tunnelling Justin McInerney during the first quarter of the season opener. This incident got ignored entirely by the match review officer, and I haven't seen any discussion about it online, despite the fact that it is a really dangerous action. So not only are the AFL not taking the act of tunnelling seriously, despite the fact that it is far more dangerous than some of the acts which have seen players suspended over the last couple of years, but they're also inconsistent with the punishment for these actions. Good to know. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on what I had to say in this video. I, for one, am confused as ever as to how they hand out punishments for reportable offences these days. Well, that was going to be the end of the video there, but since recording, there was another pushing incident which resulted in an injury during the Collingwood GWS game. Kieran Briggs, as you can see in the footage, sort of got pushed under the ball by Darcy Cameron, who was attempting a mark, and copped a bit of friendly fire from Sam Taylor. He was concussed and also stretchered off the field. He seemingly also copped a neck injury, which I think is why he got stretchered off, because I don't think the concussion, by the looks of it, was the most serious aspect of this injury. Now look, I don't think there was anything in this one. Darcy Cameron just gave him a little slight nudge under the ball, and he was actually attempting a mark. He got hands to the ball, didn't quite clunk the mark, but this is just another one similar to the Dan Curtin one. I don't think there's really anything in this. I don't think it was in the back. I think it was more so in the side. Just an unlucky incident. But I thought I'd bring it up just because it was on topic with the rest of this video.